Hi, Aaron. How are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
Good, thank you. I have a little guest here, so I hope you don't mind.
No.
So,
What's her name?
Phoebe.
Aw, Phoebe.
Phoebe, say hi to Aaron. Don't be rude.
My Daisy might join us, but as of now, she is still in bed.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, of course, because it's the best place on earth, right?
Absolutely.
So, how have you been, Aaron? How was the week treating you so far?
2021 is less eventful so far, but we're still early on, so
True.
keeping my expectations rather low.
Good plan. That's an amazing plan. So I thought it would be quite nice to spin up the whole interview game. So I put a number on each question, and you get to decide which question you want to answer first, second, and third. So I have 7 questions for you, and you kind of, if you have a dice, you can roll the dice or just pick.
Ooh, I don't. Let's start with question number 6.
Okay. Do you have tips for aspiring artists who may have just started a band or recently and then COVID hit? So how can they stay motivated and hopeful?
Say that again? I heard a beep in the middle of it.
I'm sorry. So how can aspiring artists who just recently started a band stay motivated and hopeful because COVID is kind of messing up everyone's life?
Yeah, I would say use this time to be creative. Right now, I think when you're first starting out as as an artist, there's always a balance of pressures between like the pressure to create new art and then the pressure to try and go out and perform and entertain, because that's kind of the other side of it. I think if you utilize this time to try and be creative rather than try and worry about all the other stuff, then by the time things open back up, you'll have a bunch of art that you can then share with the world. That's kind of what we did last year. We stayed really low key and just kind of created music so that in 2021, being hopeful that things might open back up and we'll see some sort of sense of normalcy soon. But just use the, if it's downtime, then use the downtime to be creative, I think. And if you do that every day and you kind of get into a routine of being creative, then it kind of makes the writer's block days a little bit easier to manage.
That's a great tip. That's a really great tip. I might use that.
There you go.
Thank you. So number 6 is gone. You have 5 more to choose.
All right, let's do number 3.
3. Timeless is the title of the new EP. Is there a certain type of music or maybe even specific artist or even a song which would you describe as timeless?
Oh, there's so many. I think good art in any of its forms. I think there are timeless movies. I think there are timeless paintings and statues. I definitely think there are timeless songs. It's kind of hard to pick them down. But it's kind of funny because I think people ultimately over time decide what's timeless or what's not. So only time can tell you what's timeless, which I've said time an awful lot in that answer.
You just mentioned like there are movies which are what movies are timeless for you?
Casablanca is one of them, which I think that's just regarded as like one of the all-time timeless movies. Forrest Gump would definitely be a timeless movie for me.
Agreed.
Ooh, man, there's so many. I don't know.
And just to stick to the music world, which artist or which song is timeless for you?
There's so many. I'm trying to think of what I would say is arguably one of the most timeless songs. Blackbird by the Beatles. Mm-hmm. That to me might be one of the most timeless songs.
Great choice. Great choice. Great choice. So roll the dice again, Mr. Aaron.
All right, so I've done 6, I've done 3. Let's do question number 1.
It's been a couple of weeks since you guys are on Sharptone Records. So you said yourself that you took a long time considering where to go, and finally you agreed on Sharptone. And I would like to know, or we would like to know, what was the main reason for that decision?
So we actually signed with Sharptone Towards the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. That might be wrong. I feel like I've been living in a fever dream, so it's like hard to remember dates. But no, we started working with them a long time ago, kind of right before the pandemic hit. It kind of was towards the end of 2019. I think that we started like being in talks about the next release and whatnot. But for us, we weren't really in any rush to necessarily put out new music. And at the same time, we have such a great relationship with Rise Records that when our contract was up, we said we kind of wanted to look around just to see what was out there, to see different ways of releasing music. For us, releasing things in EPs and that was kind of important for us. Not necessarily the EP format, but just being able to create music and get it out to people quickly and effectively. That was like a big thing for us, and to try new things, instead of just maybe the 10 or 11 song album format. But Sharptone's been a great home for us so far.
That sounds amazing. Like, I think it's, like you said, label's almost a home for band. So if it's kind of not nice and you still have kind of like, okay, this is cool, but it doesn't feel right. So I think it's kind of difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, and thankfully we never had that with Rise. Like, we always had a great relationship with them. I think, just after doing 6 albums, when it was coming time for album number 7, we all were just kind of like, let's try something a little bit different, because worst case scenario, we can go back to the old format. But no, it's always, I think it's always fun to push your creative boundaries a little bit. And sometimes that involves, changing up the team a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like moving out, isn't it?
Maybe. That might be a way of looking at it. I don't know. To me, it's just kind of like it's a label is a collaborative partner. So like, we have all these grandiose visions about how we want to release music and the way that we want our art to be perceived by people. And then it's up to the label to kind of help facilitate that. And so I think it's kind of just a different creative partner in that sense,
Mm-hmm. I see. So we have 2, 5, and 7 left.
All right, so let's do 2.
2. After Timeless, we can, like you said, you're doing 3 EPs this year, right?
Yeah.
So,
at least.
Is the studio album concept outdated, or what would you say? Because bands like Bring Me the Horizon are doing EP. Spirit Box did a lot. What's your 2 cents on it?
I think that there are sort of 2 ways of doing it. To me, if you kind of think about it in terms of Netflix, it's the difference between dropping a series all at once so people can binge watch it, or having a series where you drop a new episode every week, like The Mandalorian, which isn't Netflix, but it's Disney. I think there are strengths and weaknesses to both. I think when you are consistently delivering new music as you're creating it, there's less of a wait time, I guess, between the art you create and the conversation that you hope to have with the people that enjoy it, or the people that don't enjoy it. But I think it's not necessarily that the album is outdated. I think, though, that a lot of young people and a lot of younger artists, it's kind of more like, I'm a foodie. I love going to restaurants. I love eating food. It's the idea of farm to table, of like, you create something and here it is. Like, I just made this and now it's out. And I think you have a lot of younger independent artists that are able to do that. So I think the younger generation of music fans are more receptive to smaller projects, like doing things like smaller EPs and releasing music as we create it, versus writing 10 or 11 songs takes time, and then recording those songs takes time, and mixing, mastering, and then by the time you've put out an album, those songs, at least to you, are 6 months old. Mm-hmm. At the very least. A lot of times for us, music that gets released is close to a year old. So this has been kind of nice because we're going to be able to drop new music as we create it. That's the plan.
That's true. That's a good point, because if you look into all this new media, whereas it's TikTok or whatnot, like the maximum is 60 seconds. So the span of attention of these youngsters is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So
Yeah.
like for us people who are like in the end of 20s, beginning of 30s, like it's just so casual, like having a full album with 14, 15 tracks and just listening to it all at once instead of like having this little bite-sized pieces of music.
Oh, yeah.
So that's interesting. That's really interesting. Even if for you as an artist, I believe, like changing up things and see what works best, especially in a situation like this right now.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even that, like what works best, like even the best is relative, you know. It's just what do you enjoy more of? And I think for us as we get older and as we've been doing this a long time, to the idea of our fans being able to hear our music shortly after we create it, that's cool, because to us music is very personal. The things we write about is very personal, and if that can spark a discussion that can be had in a shorter window, if that makes sense. So there's not a ton of lag time between what you're writing about and people, you know, that sort of sparking a conversation, because music is always a conversation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we have 4, 5, and 7.
Okay, let's do 4.
4. So on the past albums of Mice and Men mixed post-hardcore and metalcore and new metal, and you created on the latter. No, you concentrated on the latter. Sorry. Sometimes more, sometimes less. And new metal is often described as dead. But you are one of the few bands who trying to keeping it alive. But would you say that new metal is dead? Or like everyone's like,
I don't know.
Metal
I don't know who can decide any of that, because Korn is a new metal band and they're definitely not dead. You know what I mean? Like, or like Papa Roach, or all those bands are still massively successful. I think that there is definitely a generational disconnect. I know that there's not like necessarily a ton of young people that like bands like Coal Chamber and stuff, but like there are definitely a lot of young people that like bands like Slipknot. Slipknot was regarded as being a new metal band, you know. So I don't know. For me, like a lot of the music we create, we don't really think a ton about it. I think it's like, for at least for me personally, I don't really like think about genres or anything like that until it's done and I listen to it retrospectively. For me, at the time of creating it, it's just like, does this spark joy? and if it does, then cool. And if not, then no. But like generally speaking, it's kind of that. It's kind of that simplistic. I think it's easier to talk about genres or what category things fall into after the fact than it is like when you're actually making something.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you been watching Marie Kondo lately? Because that's right.
Oh yeah, no, we watched that when that first came out, and I remember it's like, oh, that's really inspiring. I could do that, and then no,
because
it's a lot of work.
I've been watching it like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, does this spark joy? And I was like, oh, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, I was like, nothing sparks joy. Just kidding. It's really sad. All right, so I have question number 7 still, right? And question number 5. Let's do question 5.
Question 5. So you guys expanded your home studios, you wrote together online, and you self-produced your new music because you are quite experienced in producing, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So would you say it's easier to create new music on that way, or do you prefer like getting into a room, jamming together, seeing each other face to face?
There's definitely there's positives and negatives to both. I think that technology now is such that we are able to get more work done than we would have 10 years ago trying to write remotely. I think we definitely still have a lot of laughs. I definitely think there's a sense of camaraderie that when you get in a room and collaborate, there's sort of like a literal kind of tangible energy of almost like you're playing tennis where you're hitting the ball back and forth because you're exchanging ideas. And I think that some of that maybe gets lost over technology, but I think for the most part, with how we used to write and operate anyway, even when we were working with producers in other studios, we would typically hover around one person's setup and all kind of collaborate that way. So being able to do that over Zoom is not terribly different. So it's kind of comforting to go back to that at times.
I see. Well, I guess it's like being like in a work situation where you kind of went from the office back home and just kind of stay there. It's almost the same. You get used to it, like arranging yourself. Okay, I just need to do a shitload of phone calls or 75 emails instead of just talking to each other. But once you get used to it, it is what it is.
I mean, the reason why human beings are still around is because we adapt. And I think it's not always comfortable or fun, but like we're pretty resilient as a species. So I think that, the arts always kind of reflect the times. And I think that you have a lot of music that's being created on a lot of these new tools and mediums that didn't necessarily exist before. You have a lot of mediums like Zoom, for example, like we're doing. Even then, this would have been harder to do 10 years ago. So
for sure, we had to send fax.
So I think that it's not entirely hopeless for creative people if they can remember to stay busy, because that's my big thing. Is like it's really easy to just wake up and then all of a sudden it's noon and it's just like, oh, another day in lockdown, so guess I won't do much. But actually working on music has kept a lot of us sane. So
like, did you have learn something new or found a new hobby for yourself? Because I recently started painting again because I was so bored, and I will never have as many free time as I have right now. So
I started getting into like PC gaming and stuff, which is like, I've always loved playing video games, but I never had like a gaming computer or anything like that. And so that's been something I've been doing on the side. And it's like, it's the same basic, it's at my same desk that all my recording stuff is at. So it's just kind of my station there anyway. But that's kind of been it. To me, it's been, a lot of times when you're in a touring band and when the world was still open and you would tour 6 to 9 months out of the year, the whole creative process was always kind of secondary to the fact that the business operates from touring and from stuff like that, And so to kind of have the universe throw the brakes a little bit and just say, hey, like now you're going to sit back and just work on music. It's been kind of nice in that sense. But I haven't played a show in over a year, and so that's kind of strange.
Yeah, I believe. So you've mentioned you're like having like building a gaming PC now. So what games are you playing?
I've been playing Cyberpunk a lot, and then just been playing Call of Duty. I played some of the Halo games and Star Wars, and just been dabbling.
I see. Wow.
Probably Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's been what I've played the most.
That huge disappointment of Cyberpunk.
See, everyone was bummed, but like when you play on a computer, it looks awesome and played great. So I've only had fun. I haven't had any of the bad experience.
Yeah, lucky you, because like the bugs, I tell you, they weren't pretty.
No.
They weren't pretty. So reaching question 7 would be, should we see each EP as their own artwork, or when finally they're all out, we can see it as one big thing together?
I think they're each sort of short stories that fit into an overall larger story without giving away too much, because I don't want to give away too much. If I start talking too much about it, then I won't have anything to come back and talk about when we drop the next one. You know what I mean? So
I think that's a good summary of how we could see them as.
Yeah, think of it as like chapters in a story that it's all part of the same story, but it's not necessarily like linear in that sense. But it is kind of. I don't know. I don't want to give too much away. That, and I haven't got my my buzzwords right yet. Like I haven't figured out how to talk about it and not sound stupid. So
I see.
I gotta wait.
We will keep waiting. So for my last question, Aaron. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but we in Germany, we celebrate Carnival season here. And since we are Cologne-based magazine, we celebrate the Cologne Carnival. And the Cologne Carnival is a carnival that takes place every year in Cologne. And it's like with a lot of parades and people dress up, go to the streets, drink, have a lot of fun. And we wanted to know if you could be there and what would your costume of choice be and why?
Okay. When is it?
It's like it's kicked off on the 11th November at 11 o'clock and 11 minutes. Then it starts, but you really celebrate it in mid-February, so it's cold. But,
okay.
But that doesn't stop people from dressing like they're in Carnival in Brazil, so.
Ooh. Maybe like a giant, like, peacock or something. Some sort of giant bird with like big old bird wings that would be like really inconvenient for people that would walk next to me.
I see. Yeah, that's great. That's smart. Like considering like social distancing being like just a big.
Yeah.
Yeah, peacock. That's great.
So wait. So when are like the parades in Cologne?
I think like there are different parades because we have I think 1, 2, 3. It's 3 or 4 days, and it's usually like it's now the English term is missing, but if you would translate it like literally, it's Rose Monday, and Carnival Tuesday. So usually it's midweek.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's through the whole city, and you just like there are different wagons. It's almost like in Disneyland, the parades with different wagons, themes, and people standing next to it, and people throwing like sweets and drinking beer.
It sounds like Mardi Gras.
Yeah, exactly. Almost like Mardi Gras, just
like Carnival in Brazil. You said Carnival, like in Brazil.
Yeah, exactly. Like Carnival in Brazil, just with not 30 plus degrees in winter. So yeah. Great, a peacock.
Yeah, so probably like something with a lot of padding to keep me warm, and something also with gigantic wings to keep people away.
Yeah, that sounds great. I would love to see that. So whenever this is over, I warmly invite you to join us at Carnival.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, definitely. We are going to make it happen some way, even if it's via Zoom. You sitting there with a peacock costume.
Even if I'm here.
Even if you're there. Thank you very much, Aaron. It was so nice speaking with you.
Thank you so much. You too. And we'll speak when we release the next one.
Yeah, of course. And so far, I wish you have an awesome day and have a great week.
Thank you. You too. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Hallo, Natascha hier. Vielen Dank fürs Einschalten. Ich hoffe, euch hat das Video gefallen. Wenn ihr noch mehr sehen wollt, dann klickt gerne hier oder hier. Da kommt ihr zu den letzten beiden Videos, die wir für euch hochgeladen haben. Gebt uns gerne einen Daumen hoch, wenn es euch gefallen hat. Und wenn ihr nicht genug bekommen könnt, dann abonniert den Kanal. Klickt die Glocke, dass ihr auch gar nichts verpasst. Und in diesem Sinne würde ich sagen, Licht und Liebe. Bis zum nächsten Mal.